Hello and welcome to the Speaking Frankly Football Show. I'm Frank Hughes, the chairman of Skelmersdale United Football Club, and alongside me is my co-host and passionate press officer AJ Vidget. Not that being involved with the football club is a prerequisite for hosting a football podcast, but it certainly helps. We are ready to dive headfirst into the vibrant world of non-league football in the Northwest, and we might even take a moment to discuss some of the bigger headlines in the sport. We'll explore life in the Northwest counties, bring you interviews with well-known faces in the league, and analyse how local teams are performing while making bold predictions for their upcoming matches. Nothing is off the limits here. We'll be diving into all kinds of topics, including complicated refereeing decisions and regulations that often leave fans perplexed. We want to hear from you too. This is your show, so don't hesitate to reach out with topics you want us to tackle. Let's get this conversation started and enjoy every single moment. We are speaking frankly. Hello and welcome to the 19th episode of the Speaking Frankly Football Show, and a warm welcome to my co-host AJ Vidget.
Thank you, Frank. Hello everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to episode number 19 on the podcast. We're one episode away from hitting the 20 and exiting the teens.
I know we were all excited when we got to 10.
We were really excited when we got to 10, but your support, you listeners, your support, your feedback has been absolutely invaluable, and so on we go. Now, on the show this week, we'll be doing our usual Northwest Counties results roundup. We are going to be touching on the subjects of Southport Football Club and the departure of their manager. We're going to look at Marine's really good run of form. We'll check in on Clitheroe on manager Sean McConville's birthday. We'll then look at Edgware and Kingsbury Football Club releasing Scott Patmore from his job. And
he's not released, he left.
All right, so he left. Yep, so one way or the other. That's fine. He ain't there anymore. And then we've got a cracking interview with Paul Mcnally coming up. And then we will round things off as we usually do with fixtures, predictions and expert analysis. All of that is to come. But first, Northwest Counties. Rather
ironic, really, that we're featured in Southport as well, as you say, because the sacking of a manager, obviously Paul Mcnally lost his job at the City of Liverpool.
Yes, he did.
So a good time to speak to Paul Mcnally, considering what's going on around the scene. A bit odd one to... Well, listen, we'll come to that anyway. Let's go to the Northwest Counties Round-Up first. Yes, and the Premier Division, Ramsbottom returned to winning ways on Saturday with a 2-0 winner, Charnock Richard. I thought that was going to be a lot tougher than it actually was. However, they had to wait until the 62nd and the 69th minutes to break the home team down. Luke Sefton scored both goals, which will be a massive relief to him as he hadn't scored since Boxing Day. The result halted the blip they've been going through, but with Bury and Lower Brick winning, they couldn't reduce the deficit.
No, they couldn't. Lower Breck had a really, really good week. They beat West Didsbury and Chorlton 3-1 on the Thursday night. And then on the Saturday, they hammered FC St Helens 5-1. They are 9 points behind Bury and have 2 games in hand. Now, I know Bury are cantering away with it as it stands, but you can't write them off. You can't write Lower Breck off at all. No, not in the slightest.
No. So what did you make of... I think the wheels have come off Ramsbottom a while back, didn't they? In terms of all the reasons, you don't know the reasons behind, whether there's injuries or such like?
No,
we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, obviously.
No, not at all. We know that they've been having a really tough run of form of late, and it's been quite present since the middle of January. So we're now in the middle of March. They had 3 points on Bury. I know it's a very, very small margin, and with Bury applying the pressure as they have been nearly every week since Christmas, it was a case of who blinked first. And I think Ramsbottom have blinked first. I think, looking at it now, automatic promotion is beyond them, but they are very much within the playoff fight there.
I think when you look at Bury, I think Bury had their blip just before Christmas, didn't they?
They did.
If you're going to have a blip, that's probably the time to do it. They seem to be in cruise control now. They keep on winning, 9 consecutive wins in the league, I think it is.
Yeah.
So they've done extremely well. Any kind of blip now from Bury could let Lower Breck in, but I can't see it happening.
You never know.
We just don't know at all, do you?
No, not at all.
Have they got to play each other? I don't think they have they? Lower Breck.
Not that I'm aware.
No.
We'll come back to that one on episode 20 when we review it. Give us some time to do our research properly.
Well, listen, the wheels appeared at one stage to have fallen off at Glossop. Another loss, this time at Abbey Hay at the weekend. But you, Craig, John and I decided to go to Charnock Richard on Tuesday night to give Richard Brodie our support. And as a direct result of that, they managed to get back to winning ways. An injury time penalty by Lewis Riley gave them all the points. Yet there was enough squeaky bum time after the goal to keep Richard on the edge.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go back to the Abbey Hay result first of all. This was a goal in the 98th minute of the game. Absolutely infuriating for Richard and for Glossop in themselves. He was telling me just prior to his game against Charnock that his side could have equalised, and the ball's come in, it's been headed towards goal. Goalkeeper's caught it, dropped it. It looked like it had gone over the line. He's clawed it back, and then the referee's blown for full time right then and there.
Crikey.
I know, it's absolutely infuriating for Richard. But what goes around comes around, and instead the injury time goal went to him in this game. Yeah, it was a real middle of the park battle. That one,
Enjoyed the game.
Oh, I think it was an excellent game.
One of the ground-uppers said it was a pretty boring game.
Yeah, the ground-hopping rover said it was a poor quality game, and he feels that if Charnock Richard had been playing for a further 2 days, they still wouldn't have scored. I'm not sure whether that is quite correct. However, their substitute strikers left a lot to be desired, with a couple of really quite glaring misses. But otherwise, they didn't exactly carve out enormous amount of chances, but they did find Glossop's goalkeeper in really fantastic form. He's only 18, but he commanded his box really well and saved some pretty crucial one-on-ones. Nonetheless, from Richard's point of view, getting that last-minute penalty will have been a massive pressure release to him, because as Richard is and as Richard does, he gets very animated on the sidelines.
I mean, he's good value for money, isn't he? I mean, we stood in the second half right by him, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
He does amuse you at times, doesn't he?
Oh, he
wears his heart on his sleeve. I mean, he came over to me before the game and he said, "Oh, it's really cold tonight." I said, "Yeah, but you need to start wearing big boy pants." He's still in his shorts, isn't he?
He's still in his shorts with his. He's very top warm, but then down below it's just shorts and trainers.
Have you seen him? He's red. His face is red all the time. I keep saying you need to get your blood pressure checked.
Absolutely, he does. Yeah.
But listen, it was lovely to catch up with their chairman as well, Dave Atkinson. Absolutely fantastic bloke. He's been at the club for 20 years. I've tried to tap him up for the show, but he said it's not his kind of thing. But they all changed the mind in the end, don't they?
Well, we've done really well at changing people's minds and tapping them up onto the show, getting them to speak their mind. So maybe we'll get Dave Atkinson on the show in the future. But otherwise, he's doing an exceptional job at running Glossop in what must be really challenging circumstances, given how remote it is. For further details on Glossop kind of day to day, you can. listen to the episode with the manager, Richard Brodie, which was episode 2 of the show.
And I think he alludes to the fact that it's very, very difficult to recruit players up that neck of the woods. Very difficult to get to. I mean, I've always, that last bit of the road and the roundabout that you go through there, very, very difficult to squeeze yourself into Glossop. Very easy to get yourself back out.
Yeah.
But I think that obviously puts off an awful lot of players. It's a hell of a trek, isn't it?
It's an enormous trek. Yeah, it sort of dug out deep within the Derbyshire Dales area. Off the top of my head, I think there's only New Mills that compete sort of even remotely close to that area. So between the two, pulling in players from rival clubs must be exceptionally difficult. But nonetheless, back to winning ways for Glossop North End, and in fact they are now level on points with Charnock Richard. Or who were, a couple of months ago, we said were vying for promotion prospects, but that dip in form quite substantial now. Yeah.
After speaking to Carl Taylor last week, his team Chadderton managed a 1-1 draw at home to South Liverpool. This managed to stem the run of 5 consecutive defeats, but they're now 6 points adrift of the playoffs, so it's looking like it won't happen for them this year.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, we were talking to Carl last week about the drop off in form and what has attributed towards that. Now he did arrest that slide, but it was a 3-3 draw. Actually, it was quite the epic.
Was it 3-3?
It was 3-3. Yeah, Chadderton South Liverpool. It was they were 2-0 down at half time to 2 Stephen Milne goals for South Liverpool. Chadderton came roaring back though, with 2 goals of their own. Milne put South Liverpool back ahead, but then Ethan Sutcliffe 7 minutes from time getting Chadderton's third goal.
So, it was a 3-3. Was it Stephen Milne hat-trick for South Liverpool?
South Liverpool, yeah, absolutely. So props to him. But it's not done their promotion prospects any good. With that being said, though, Earlham have been docked a point.
Oh, I noticed that.
For, was it fielding an ineligible player or something like that? I'm not sure.
I would imagine so, something like that.
Something along those lines, which has put, Chadderton 5 points behind Earlham in that. But nonetheless, they've still got a way to go before they catch West Didsbury and Chorlton, who have 73 points. So there's still a bit to play for, but it is, with 5 games to go, it is kind of looking out of Chadderton's reach unless something quite dramatic happens there.
And just looking at South Liverpool's point. Against Chadderton, following the 3 points that they took from Squires Gate, they're now 5 points clear of the drop zone.
They are.
But they have a hell of a lot of challenging games to come up.
They do, yeah. So they've got 8 games left to go. They are 10 points behind Litherland Remica. So, you would imagine that they're unlikely to close that gap, but nonetheless they've still got to make sure that they keep ahead of that chasing pack, as both Colne and Squires Gate have picked up points yet again in the fixtures that occurred, and particularly we are going to come to FC Isle of Man at Squires Gate. Now Squires Gate turned up there with no wins in about 8 or 9 games and won 3-2. At the Bowl, in front of a higher than usual crowd of 719 who witnessed a treat up until James Boyd scored in the 56th minute with what proved to be the winner for Squires Gate. Yeah,
so they've got a real fighting chance of pulling off an act of Houdini promotions?
Possibly, yes. So that lifts them off the bottom of the table at the expense of Prestwich Hayes, but they are 2 points behind Colne. Colne have 2 games in hand. Colne did their own survival chances, absolutely no harm at all, with a 2-2 draw at Earlham. Now Earlham, historically have an exceptional home record, but both Frank and I called it that Colne would take points, and so they did, with Jack Holt securing the equaliser 6 minutes from time, and with actual fact, with 20 minutes to go, Earlham were 2-0 up, so some real tremendous fighting spirit there from Cone to get back to level terms and then secure that draw.
Yeah, which has reduced the points to 2, the gap between the two teams to 2.
Yeah, it
2
has.
points.
Yeah, just the 2 points between Squiresgate and Cone now, but
so it's far from over at the bottom of the table.
Very far from home over at the bottom of the table. Cone have just 3 points before they catch Pilks and South Liverpool, and they have game in hand on Pilks as well. So the omens are looking good for Cone at any rate, but Prestwich Hayes and Squiresgate have a lot of work to do.
I think Pilks have probably done enough. They lost at Stockport Town, but they still have a 5 points advantage.
Yes, they do. It will be interesting to... Yeah, and Squiresgate have actually played a game more than them, so they may very well have done enough at this point to keep away from the trouble.
And Prestwich Hayes, they could still escape the relegation zone, but following a 2-1 defeat by Bearscough, it doesn't look good.
No, it's not looking good, no. So Bearscough getting on the score sheet after half an hour, almost predictably through Callum Laird. I think that's his 14th goal of the season, something like that.
I always get mixed up when you say that name because I'm thinking it's
Camel Laird. No, so Callum Laird plays for
I wonder
Bearscough.
if he was named Callum for a reason.
Come on.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to ask him.
Well, if he was born 1907, 19th of July,
he's still going strong, and he's playing well.
There you go.
Listen, Dave Dempsey will be pleased with his players' recent performances. That's a hat-trick of wins now on the bounce, and they've lost just once in 6 games.
Yeah, they have. So they've boosted themselves up to 17th in the league, hot on the heels of Glossop North End, Charnock Richard, and Barnoldswick, the next teams above them. So they are, not they're not in danger of relegation, but Dempsey will want them to kick on as much as they can for a really respectable finish before he looks to build for next season.
Division 1 North.
Now, Division 1 North threw us an awful lot of curveballs. So, looking at the predictions, I did reasonably well in the premiers. I think I got about 6 or 7 correct across the
I've not even counted
across the days.
I'm going to count them while you're talking.
There you go. But in terms of the Division 1 North, I only got one fixture correct, and that was Garstang against Exton Villa, which finished 4-0 to Villa. So we know what it feels like to be beaten 4-0 by Exton Villa. But what it also did was confirm Garstang's relegation from the Northwest Counties Division 1 North, much the same as Skem as well. So we have technically been relegated, but we will wait to see if there are any lateral movements or reprieves that might keep us in the division. Otherwise, Ashton Athletic managed a 2-1 win over Bacup Borough. I had Bacup to win, but no, Ashton got on the score sheet really quickly through Emmanuel Ujichuku, and then doubled their lead through Jack Smith in the second half. Ashton Town and Kevin Towie secured a 2-0 win over Steeton. Mikey Howard, ex-Scam United, got on the score sheet within the first minute of the game. And then George Lomax, we said it would want to be one of the Lomax brothers to contribute. George Lomax got the second goal in the 82nd minute to secure them a 2-0 win over Steeton. So with that in mind, Ashton Town still not technically out of playoff contention, but it might be just a little bit of a stretch too far for them to recover that 13-point deficit with how many games? 5? Yeah, 5 games. So
I think he'll just be happy finishing with a flourish, won't he, rather than I think he's given up the hope of the playoffs.
I think he may well have done. That was that dreadful period in between sort of October and January when they were they couldn't buy a win, quite honestly, but their goal difference is now in the positives. They're in the top half of the table. I think Towie will just want to, like I say, kick on and be as high as he possibly can. Droylsden took on Daisy Hill at the Butcher's Arms in front of a enormous turnout of 675, but they were made to be incredibly disappointed as the Aaron Hunt train rolls on. The social media personality who recently became chairman of Daisy Hill oversaw his side win 2-1 against the North West Counties powerhouses. Jacob Bridings getting on the score sheet after 5 minutes, and a penalty from Caden Barlow proving the difference, while Harry Forshaw could only secure a consolation for Droylsden.
Have we mentioned AFC Blackpool?
We haven't yet.
No, we're just thinking that they're really scoring goals for fun at one stage, and we did think they were potential playoff finalists, but yes, the wheels seem to have come off. They've been beaten 4-0 by McGull, and we know McGull can switch it on. But they did manage to get back to a 0-0 draw at home to Ashton Athletic, which on Wednesday night, but you'd have expected they're the kind of games that would have...
Oh, you have to win if you're
AFC Blackpool were going to win anyway.
Really, yeah, very much so. So with that in mind, AFC Blackpool sitting 8th, one place behind Kevin Towie's Ashton Town. Again, they are 14 points behind Holker Old Boys in that final playoff berth. Yeah, and Holker Old Boys have a game in hand on AFC Blackpool, so anything other than a loss for Holker Old Boys, and it is mathematically certain that AFC Blackpool won't be pushing for.
And I don't know whether their drop in form sort of tallies up with Luke Heppel, obviously not scoring. I don't know whether he's injured or I should have done more research, but
yeah, I'm not sure.
He seems to have stopped scoring goals at the moment.
A little, yeah. So he, so they've not managed to win in their last 3 games, which has included two losses on the bounce, including this one, this very heavy one against McGull, but I'm not sure what's happened to the goal scorers there. No. It's another blank, 2 blanks in a row now for AFC Blackpool.
Moving on to Atherton LR, a 3-1 defeat at Holkham wasn't such a surprise really, given the issues that David Jones seems to be having at the moment, and the poor run of form continues.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, so I think we both anticipated that Atherton Allard would kind of get back to winning ways over this one. Obviously, Holker, they may very well be good at home, but their record, on the whole, can be quite up and down. As it is, Atherton have lost 3 of their last 4 games now. Obviously, Nelson was one of them, and Holker Old Boys being another. So it's not like they were losing.
Very much sort of sat back, Nelson, haven't they, and watched it unfold this way.
They have, yeah.
It's a huge pity for David. I just wonder whether the FA VARs was too much of a...
It could very well have been, yeah. So, from what I'm led to believe as well, Atherton LR haven't got the most enormous squad either. I don't know whether depth is continuing to be an issue for them. But Jamie Hodgson's brace, his first was in the 85th minute. His second was in the 2nd minute of added time, putting paid to Atherton LR's hopes of getting out of there with a draw.
So it's out of their hands now anyway, isn't it? It's
they've got
2 games in hand. they're 7 points behind, so they are your point behind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so Nelson now in the driving seat as far as that automatic promotion is concerned, and that'll be bitterly disappointing for Dave, because they did have 5 or 6 games in hand on Nelson at one point, but that pressure is now starting to get to them.
Away slightly from the Division 1 North, but still with the team there. A big shout out to Brent Peters' Bacup Borough, who managed to jank Killing over Padiham as they beat them 1-0 to progress to the final of the Lancashire Challenge Trophy. Big win.
A very good win for Bacup Borough, who in domestic form they have secured their place within the league for another season. I don't think there was any doubt that they wouldn't, but pushing for the trophy, I think, would have been on Brent's mind as a bit of a priority, not least when you consider that Padiham themselves are right in the mix for promotion. And you'd say that would have been a priority for them. Nonetheless, Padiham have been on a bit of a up and down run of form themselves recently, so it looks like in that little Burnley derby there, Padiham Bacup took full advantage of it.
Do we know who they played in the final?
We don't actually. That's
been interesting.
Lancashire Challenge Trophy, so
I'm looking.
You having a look now?
Just amuse yourselves while we
cutting edge preparation here.
Right, so I see. The other semi-final was between Longridge and Southport. It's not played until Tuesday.
Oh, really?
So you would imagine the Southport will probably win that.
You would think so, yeah. We'll come to Southport in just a few minutes.
Listen, we'll move on to Division 1 South then. Listen, just to say, Brent Peters, hope to have him on the show sometime soon, but a marvellous achievement there. We'll move on to Division 1 South now.
Yeah, there wasn't an awful lot of games being played in Division 1 South, and from them I did not get any right as my predictions going, as Stockport Georgians beat Asheville 2-1 away from home, a 96th minute winner from Kyle Witch, securing 3 points for the Georgians there. Barnton continued their hopes of a revival from relegation by beating New Mills 3-1, a brace there for Tom Stanton, contributing to a 3-1 win there in front of a crowd of 305, which isn't bad at all. Yeah, absolutely. Camel Laird scored early to secure a 1-0 win away at Eccleshall. Market Drayton Town and Dan Dawson did the business at home away at Foley Mere. Runcorn Town, though, were the biggest winners of the day with a 1-0 win against promotion-chasing Abbey Hulton United. Tom Ruffer scoring after a quarter of an hour in front of 178 fans there.
They deserve bigger gates, don't they?
They really do, yeah. They're playing a really exciting brand of football at the minute. They're winning plenty of games. They're taking the heat to promotion favourites like Stafford Town and Abbey Hulton, both of whom have been on the receiving end of defeats to Runcorn as of late.
So that was their first defeat in 10 games, Abbey Hulton, which are regarded as, according to Dan Dawson, the most likely team to win the playoffs.
Yeah, they do.
But Runcorn have beaten them twice. They did. That was the double.
That was the double. Goodness me. Well, that's some exceptional play from Runcorn Town, and it probably shows them an awful lot about just how well the boys are doing over there. Page, what's his name? Robert Page, is it?
Yeah.
Liam Page, that's the one. Yeah, Liam Page being one half of the that excellent duo that's securing Runcorn's revival. Now, the last game was Stafford Town against Alsager Town. Now, unfortunately, Stafford Town were winning 2-0, but the game was abandoned on 90 minutes, unfortunately, due to a player injury. Now, Matty Russell, the manager of Alsager Town, provided an update on the player, who was Adam Hampshire. And I'll read it as follows. I just wanted to update you all on Adam after what had been a really tough time for him. He suffered multiple seizures on Sunday evening following his discharge from hospital and then had to be rushed back. We then had a really worrying time yesterday, which was, pardon me, so you're hearing this on Friday. This was Tuesday night. We had a really worrying time yesterday while the doctors and nurses tried to gain control of his situation. The good news is he's now had a solid 24 hours without a repeat episode and has just been discharged, awaiting an MRI scan. Right now, the most important thing is his health and recovery. He's been in the best possible hands and we're all doing everything we can to support him. I know how much he means to us all, and I have no doubt he'll be feeling the love from the messages and support he's received so far. I'll keep you updated of any changes, but for now, let's keep him in our thoughts and hope for a continued upward trend. Thank you for your support as always. So we, of course, absolutely wish Adam Hampshire all the very, very best for his recovery. We hope to see him back on the pitch soon.
You just don't expect to go out and play a game of football and end up so seriously ill.
No, you don't. And unfortunately, it despite all the safety precautions put in place, I don't think anybody could have foreseen what happened to Adam out on the pitch that it looks
as though the first aiders have done a tremendous job.
Yeah, absolutely. So credit to the first aiders.
Shout out to them. Shout out to Adam, Alsager, and all the best. And let's just hope a speedy recovery as well.
Very much so. Yeah.
So, I think the only other one was Asheville, who'd lost at home to Stockport Georgians, when a win could have seen them get back in the mix in the playoffs. So,
but that being said, Eccleshall, Alsager Town and Abbey Hulton United and actually Cheadle Heath Nomads either didn't play or lost. So Asheville's destiny still not entirely out of their own hands. They've got a bit of work to do to catch the Nomads, who are 3 points, but 3 places ahead of them. So that last playoff position, that could really go down to the wire.
Yeah. Well, listen, that sort of rounds up the results from the Northwest Counties. We move on to the more controversial subjects now, and we start off with Southport Football Club. Following Southport's 1-0 defeat at Marine, the club announced they'd parted company with their manager Jim Bentley on Wednesday morning. It's hardly a shock, I suppose, given their current form, however rather sad in many ways, as he'd managed to steer the club from relegation last season when they were rooted to the bottom of the National League North. But once again, it highlights the cutthroat nature of the business.
I wonder how necessary it was to sack him on, with so few games left to play. Relegation is not really.
I think the supporters played a big part
at
the very end of the game. They made their feelings known.
They certainly did, yeah. So at the end of the game, there is video footage online of a number of Southport fans voicing their discontent at the current regime in place, and unfortunately, it's forced Southport's hand. So they've got rid of Jim Bentley, who with I think the assistants now going to ride out the season by themselves. Really quite unnecessary in my opinion. He's kept them up. He should have deserved to see out the season, really.
Yeah, but he'll have some kind of clause in his contract that's giving him a little payoff at the end of that. But it's never nice to see a manager lose his job. Even more so when you consider, for the likes of Jim Bentley, football is his business. That's where he makes his money. There's I'm assuming there's no other job for Jim Bentley, so he will be looking to get back into management pretty quick. Whether they'll manage to get back at that level remains to be seen. But like I say, it's never nice to see a manager lose his job.
No, especially one that's sort of quite closely, connected to us. Southport. Tommy, Tommy was a scout at Southport.
They worked together briefly.
When he came back to Skem, obviously you had a bit of a time with Southport yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, before Jim Bentley.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's connections to Skem there. So obviously it's never nice to see them go through.
We want to see Southport do really well.
Of course we do. We do. But on the flip side of it, the 1-0 win for Marine over Southport means that Neil Young's managed to navigate them out of the bottom four. They are now 11 points clear of the drop zone, 6 games unbeaten, with 4 of those securing clean sheets.
Yeah, and I'd love to get him on the show, Neil.
Yeah, I mean we had James Leary on the show, the CEO of Marine. He was on the show about 4 episodes ago with a really, really decent introspective on life in the stands as part of the operation team. So definitely get Neil Young on the show.
And he's not entirely confident that they've done enough. He's told his squad, there's still your corn to earn.
Still corn to earn, yeah. But that being said, he's had some really difficult games to navigate, and he's done exceptionally well. So part of that 6-game unbeaten run included a 2-2 draw at Hereford, as well as beating Kidderminster. And they did lose against the team in second behind Scunthorpe. I can't for the life of me remember the name. But anyway, he nearly took points off one of the promotion chasing lot.
Was that Braintree? No, it wasn't Braintree, was it? No.
Brackley.
I knew it began with a B.
Yes, it did.
A bit too south, the other one.
Exactly, yeah. So it was a 1-0 defeat against Brackley. But again, another showcase that Neil Young is doing a really terrific job at Marine there.
Neil Young was the manager of Chester when we went toe-to-toe with them.
Really?
Yeah.
So, there you go. There's another, recall that Neil's got a bit to answer for there, hasn't he?
Yeah. That's why I'd love to get him back on the show and see how he felt. Because we're going into that final game, I think there had to be something like an 8-0. There had to be there was an 8-goal difference. Yeah. We managed to win 7-2. I think they lost like 2-1 or something like that. Can't remember what it was, but we needed to overcome. I think by 1 goal we were. They nicked the title, so it'll be interesting to see what his perspective on that was back then, because we were they were the big team with the big money, and we were the small country bumpkins
that almost did it. The David amongst the Goliaths there. Yeah. And a special shout out to Sean McConville, who on the day of his birthday managed to secure a 3-1 win against Hanley Town, which all but confirms that Hanley Town will be relegated from the Northern Premier League this season. As for Clitheroe, they played some really decent football and took their chances when presented. I've seen the highlights of it, and all 3 goals, if you are from a Hanley Town perspective, you'd say that all of them were preventable. But if you're Sean McConville in Clitheroe, you're absolutely delighted that the chances have been taken there. So Clitheroe sort of away from the relegation spots again. But, he may be keeping half an eye on what goes on down below. But mightily impressive result for him, and the perfect way to celebrate his birthday. So
well done, well done. And let's hope to get him on the show at some stage as well.
Very much so.
And many happy returns of the day when it was. When was it?
It was last Saturday.
Oh, was it? Let's know the best for that anyway.
There you go.
Moving on to, we're going really, really further south than we normally do, but Edgware and Kingsbury Football Club, members of the Combined Counties Premier Division 1 North League, made the headlines when their manager, Scotty Patmore, released the following statement.
Yeah, he said, "I find it incomprehensible that I am writing this statement, but my position as manager of Edgware FC has become untenable. My backroom staff and I have been forced into making a heartbreaking decision, but we will not get embroiled in negative politics which potentially could affect all aspects of our lives. On arrival, nobody gave us any hope of turning the club around, but with hard work, dedication, and the outside help and support of players and managers, we were well on our way of maintaining Step 5 football at Silver Jubilee Park for next year. I have always prided myself on honesty, integrity and professionalism, but this has not been matched by individuals at the club who have made our success even more incredible by attempting to sabotage the team at every opportunity. Personally, I leave with an incredible amount of pride, and amazingly, we are currently sitting second in the form table behind potential champions Egham FC, which is promotion form. However, in spite of this, I have already been told I will not be needed next year. I am now confident that within the right environment I can assemble a team that can compete at this and possibly a higher level. I have to give my heartfelt thanks to the supporters, the guys who have helped on match days, and of course the chairman for giving me the opportunity. But my biggest appreciation is to the original Edgware players who I kept on, who I formed a bond of trust with. And secondly, all of my players who I personally got into the club to help. You guys know what has occurred, and I want to place on record the support you gave me, the effort you gave me, and ultimately the belief you had in me and our plan. This will live with me forever. It may have only been 8 games, but the transformation was there for everybody to see, and I leave with us out of the relegation zone, and more importantly, I leave with my dignity intact. I have no doubt I will be back soon."
Back soon to the football club.
Unlikely, as the club has surprisingly responded with the following comments. "Scott Patmore has decided to leave his position as manager with immediate effect. Everyone at the club is devastated with his announcements. However, we'd like to go on record in thanking him for what he has achieved in a very short time." So, a couple of things to point out there. The first is that the club's statement indicates that he has left his position with immediate effect, whereas Scott's said that his has become untenable and that he'll not get embroiled in negative politics. So quite clearly, between the two of them, someone is not saying something.
I've made contact with Scott, and listen, we've got no show next week for one reason or another, but the week after we're hoping to have Scott on the show. I don't know whether we'll be able to go into the specifics of this, because I think there might be a little bit of a climb down in terms of, you've got to be very careful what you say if you're looking for another job. But listen, reading from what he said there doesn't seem to have been a fallout with the chairman, because he's quite respectful of the chairman. So where the issue lies remains to be seen. It'd be an interesting conversation if we can get anything out of him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you've got to kind of wonder where it comes from, because largely a chairman will leave. A manager will leave either due to poor results or to a poor relationship with his chairman, and neither of those seem to have materialised. Now, you have to wonder whether the inner workings of the club are not something that Scott Patmore, likes. Maybe his intentions for next year, weren't the same as the club. He's already alluded to the fact that he wasn't going to be needed for next year. So whether the club felt they were a bit beyond...
It's an amazing statement, that, isn't it? Because I've never known any club to turn around and say, before the final few games of the season, you won't be required next season.
Yeah, absolutely. So
very poor from a professional standpoint.
Yeah, it really is, and it probably underlines how Scott Patmore's feeling at this time. He's probably got,
well, you'd be gobsmacked, wouldn't you?
Extremely angry at the club, and with very good reason. So we're not 100% sure what's going on there. And
there'll be two sides to every story, as we know. So
and we hope very much to hear Scott's within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, listen, I think that rounds up part one of the show. In part two, we will be speaking to Paul Mcnally. So we'll take a small commercial break and we'll see you in part two. Goodbye for now. Special shout out to all the businesses that support Skelmersdale United Football Club, Origin Sign Company, T&W Garners, 7PDS, Skem Express Cars 5005, Lease Car UK, RNB Auto Centre, SB Skills Solutions and Hey Presto Web Design. Thank you to everyone who donates to the club, supports our race nights, raffles and the lottery bonus ball scheme, and of course the last man standing. A special thanks to those who organise these fundraising events, especially the incredible Lee Davis and Lucas Berquist. To all who stand by us both on and off the field, we are truly grateful. If you wish to sponsor the show, please contact me at chairman.skemutdfc@gmail.com or call me on 07766 054 548. All proceeds will go to Skelmersdale United Football Club. Thank you for your unwavering support. Hello and welcome to the second part of the Speaking Frankly football show, and a warm welcome today to Paul Mcnally. Paul Mcnally is the former manager of the City of Liverpool amongst other teams and was until the end of October last year. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Hi Frank, you okay?
Yeah, not too bad. Listen, before we talk about the City of Liverpool, you've had a fairly long career in management. Camelaird, Remy and Skem. You helped Laird and Remy to promotions, and off the back of those successes you were cherry picked for the Skem job. Would you say the Skem job was your greatest success as you built the club up from next to nothing?
Yeah, probably on my CV it probably is, isn't it? Because I took over, they were relegated and then they were going down, we had the NPL. I was basically flogging a dead horse and I was allowed to rebuild it. I rebuilt it, bit of COVID hit. And then from that, we had a successful run in the FA Cup, didn't we, which elevated us, and we then got promotion from that the next season, which pushed on that. So just to correct you, I've had 3 promotions with it. Do you know what I mean? I don't know whether you were touching on that with the Skem thing, but
no, up to that point you'd only had you'd only had the 2. We'll come to that in a bit. Listen, your words, they were your words because I've listened to a few podcasts, but you got the bullet from Camelaird and Remy. At one point, I assume at one point you became disillusioned with the game and you took a break. I think you said you learnt a lot from loyalty in the greater sense that it doesn't exist in football, but you got a little bit more ruthless to get where you want to go.
Yeah, as such. From the Camelaird one, that was my first dip into management. I was an assistant manager to Tony Sullivan before that, when they finished second in the NPL. So I then was staying with them, and then I took over, obviously, and I learnt a lot. I learnt basically that it's not all nice, is it? Do you know what I mean? I had a good group of players there. There's some fantastic standard players that I've managed there, and I really learned from that. And then from the next year, when I got finished, I did get a little bit disillusioned, but I always remain coaching still. That's still my passion, coaching, and I still do that now to this day. And then I went to Lidl and Remacher from that, and was actually assistant coaching and then become the manager there. So it's sort of a little bit of a pattern there developing, but then once I went to Skem, I think that's probably the biggest achievement, going back to the initial question, is it is from what I've built, because the club were on its knees, wasn't it?
Listen, we'll come to that a little bit later. But how old are you?
46.
46, because I was trying to find out how old you were earlier on today, and it said somewhere you were 56.
No, that's the other Paul Mcnally, isn't it? The older Paul Mcnally.
I would have thought that because I'm assuming
the older one
yeah.
Who played for Skem, played for Runcorn.
Yeah.
So I think he managed Runcorn, so he's I say a lot older than me. I don't want to do him a disservice, but it wasn't around while I was still playing and being involved in football. Do you know what I mean?
I just thought you were keeping very well if you were 56.
I know, a spring chicken. I'd have been looking to retire if I was 56. I wouldn't have wanted none of the shenanigans that goes on with it.
Listen, that you got sort of up to the Skem management job. They'd kind of accepted the fate. They were bottom of the league with just 3 points before you arrived, and then the club was eventually relegated from the Northern Premier League to the North West Counties. I think you were ground sharing at Prescott at the time. Yes. We were ground sharing. We went into the counties, and I was bringing local lads in. We weren't paying much. They were paying relatively little budget, even for the North West Counties. And it was hard to try and recruit still off the back of that. I was trying to get as many Skem lads in as I could, which was still hard. There was still a stigma attached to the club. And they just don't want to be associated with a team that was losing. So from that, the season in the counties, I think we finished about 15th. I think we were fighting. Then COVID hit the next season. We were building a relatively stronger squad then, and then COVID hit. If I remember rightly, if I can, all the seasons seemed to just blur into one, Frank. And I can remember then obviously COVID hit, and we were in the FA Cup from then, and then that's when we built from then. The FA Cup, it was a springboard then, wasn't it? Yeah, just going back a little bit there, then I think the season when you started, that you were at Prescott before you moved over to the GAMO. So that was the season where they sort of accepted the fate and we got relegated. During that period of time when the conversation turned to move into the GAMO and John Mallinson was going to sort out the infrastructure so that you could move back, it must have gave you a great deal of hope. Yeah, I can remember the conversations that I had with Paul Griff, and sadly he's passed away now, hasn't he? And the conversations with him we're trying to get back to Skem, and look, he had great faith in me, and I'll state it openly on record, and he is the best chairman I've ever worked for, and it's not because he's passed away. He was really an open, honest man with me. He had a lot of faith in me. He backed me to the hilt, and he just, everything that he asked me to do, I delivered for him. Everything that I asked, he gave me, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? As much as he could. Do you know what I mean? And going back to Skem was, and you're in that position now at the club, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? It's important and imperative that the club plays back in Skem. Yeah, it's got a massive fan base. It's a huge historical club, and I was going to say that I don't think anybody anticipated, certainly when Skem got the lifeline and he got back, ended up back in Skem at the GMO. I certainly don't think it expected to be back in the position it finds itself in right now. No, and I certainly didn't when I left the club. Do you know what I mean? And that's just unfortunate how it is. But at the time when we went back to JMO, I didn't realise how big it would be until the first game was against Bearscough. I think it was Boxing Day, and we won 4-0 if I can remember rightly. And the crowd, there must have been about 500 people there. Amazing. And I don't know whether that's an exaggeration, whatever, I don't know, but that was when I knew we had something special there, to be fair, at the club with Skem. Yeah, listen, knowing Skem well enough, like, and the people, there was probably 250 paying, and there was 250 went over the fence. Yeah. But there was something at the JMO. We built something there. It was a horrible pitch to play for other people, but it was wide, it was huge, and it was our ground. It was something that we could build on, and I think all the Skem people, they responded. And like I say, when we were at Prescott, it was desolate. Must have been about 60-70 people there, and I didn't see where it could go. Then, like I say, Griff pulled it. I say not just Griff, it was the board, obviously. They pulled it out, the masterstroke of getting back there, and that was pivotal
for us to build a platform to push on. And like I say, from that day onwards, it was just success. We pushed on, really did, from that point onwards, and that was the platform, I'd say.
Yeah.
So you got offered the City of Liverpool job in September 2022, after 6 years after applying for it initially, and you said that it was probably the only job that would prize you away from Skem. So I think that the time felt right when the opportunity presented itself. Is that correct?
Yes. Look, when you join a new club, it is the only club, obviously, that you want to go to. At the time, they're in the NPL. They're one of the bigger clubs in the area, with Bootle, Marine, etc., like above you. So at that time, it matched my ambitions. I was stated to saying that, and I still hold that belief that it was the right move. At the time, Skem couldn't match my ambitions of where we wanted to go.
Where had it gone wrong at that point then, Paul? Because obviously you'd have the massive FA Cup run, which brought a great deal of revenue into the club. You've managed to get promotion. You've finished second to Macclesfield, which is a great achievement. You won the playoffs to gain promotion. Was there early stages of the fact that it wasn't the club wasn't going to meet your ambition?
It wasn't that, to be honest. I'll tell you decidedly, it was the fact that we were having to play at Bearscough. It was not to do with I wanted more money, not to do with that. It was just my ambitions of we're playing at Bearscough, and you're in that situation now, and I didn't see how we were going to get basically the fans back in. The fans did still support us, and there was a lot of animosity towards me because I left. And I get it, it's football, I understand it. But if we were at JMO, and it's not just that, if we were in that Skem base, it might have been a little bit different, because I truly believed that the team I had, that season we possibly could have ended up in the playoff areas with the team that I left, or I had. It was capable, because we had a bit of momentum, we were promoted, we had a successful team. I took a lot of them away, obviously, and they come with me to City of Liverpool as we got to the playoff final with a lot of them players, do you know what I mean? So I think I'm proven right, and yeah, a lot of them probably would have made the playoffs that year with Skem. We were new to it, and we had momentum. Yeah.
Did you know that the budget was going to get cut when you moved to Bearscough, or did you just sort of sense that yourself?
My budget never got cut when I was at Skem. No. For the start of the season, my budget wasn't cut. It wasn't what I wanted. I asked for a little bit more, but every manager does. But it wasn't what I wanted, as I say. But it wasn't cut. It was a rise to the Northwest Counties. And I couldn't speak for Richard Brodie himself after he took over. Whether he got a rise, I don't know. Maybe he did. I really don't know. But only he'd be able to answer that. But the budget wasn't that big of a deal for me. That wasn't the problem. It was more, like I say, where do we go from there? Do we have the same scenario as we had at Prescott? Yeah. And I'd been in that position before, if you understand.
Yeah, listen, I know that when you get it's okay having a pop at the manager when a team fails. They decide to leave and go to other clubs. For a manager, it's a little bit more difficult, because you've got to concentrate on your CV
and
moving
there's
forward.
There's a loyalty there, which look, all the people who were like family to me, everyone there behind the scenes, Kat, Norman, Les, then they were emotionally gutted, and they didn't speak to me myself. You know what I mean? And like I say, there's a lot of personal involvement there, and when it did move, it was very sensitive. Paul Griff did handle it very well, to be fair, and like I say, the sentiments I'd have loved to have achieved what I could with Skem at that time, and as I say, it wasn't to do with money, it was more to do with could I go further. And I truly believe that City Liverpool were in a position to match my ambitions and push me on a little bit further. But
when you took over the club from Michael Ellison, they were at the at the bottom of the league. So what were you looking for in those early days? Obviously, surviving relegation was one, but did you have a long-term plan for what you wanted to do at City Liverpool?
Well, when I went in, the long-term plan for them was to get out of the relegation zone of 0 points. I left Skem in third position at the time, and I thought, you know what, we'll catch that. We'll get used to it. When you go into a club, you're not to know what's going on behind the scenes or why they're not winning. Do you know what I mean? I had, I'll say it openly now, I had 10 players on contract. That wasn't their fault. Do you know what I mean? They're on contract. New manager comes in and he has to shuffle the cards and get wins, and I didn't instantly get wins. My first game we got beat by Colne 3-2, and then the next game I think we got beat, and I was trying to shuffle the pack and bring players in and sort of see what we wanted and change how they played a little bit and change the style, and that's hard. It doesn't happen overnight, but it was tough. And there was a lot of pressure from behind the scenes, to be fair, on me straight away. And I said, if I'm not your man, I wouldn't have left Skem. Do you know what I mean? Then why did you choose me? But it was a lot of, can you do this? Can we do this? Who are we going to sign? Can we do this? And I just said, leave me to do my job.
Yeah.
And then over the time we did. And I think we proved what we could do within that season, because by about Christmas time, I think we got out of the bottom 3 or 4 at that time, and then I don't think we ever touched it from January onwards then.
Yeah, so you sort of reasonably stabilised, City and Liverpool kind of away from the bottom of the league. Looking at kind of what you wanted to do next, did it match up with what it looks like when you were interviewed for the job, when you thought everything was kind of on the right track?
Not everything's as it seems, is it? Do you know what I mean? It's, I'm not saying anything out of turn, but no football club is. You think that you're going to the dream job and you're going to be flying here and it's going to push you on, but it never is at our level of football. So you've always got trials and tribulations, but we plod on and we work through. Did I have a bigger budget than I had at Skem? Yeah, I did. I had a bigger budget, but it wasn't huge, but it was tied down with obviously contract situations and working through a squad. And that season was basically a transitional season for me, which I didn't expect. I thought I'd be going in and it'd be great, I've got a good team, should just push on, but it didn't work out like that. It was a transition. I think we finished 12th, if I remember rightly, and Skem finished above us, which he greatly celebrated, although we did beat them. When we went to Beersko and we rightly hammered them, which was nice at the time, and it's not nice against Skem, but it was nice for me personally to prove a point.
Yeah. I didn't realise until I did a bit of research, but you were actually pipped for the post by Simon Burton 6 years before you'd actually started the job. So you were actually in the reckoning for the job back then.
The original, so they made the mistake the first time but rectified it later on. But in all honesty, look, the club's a fantastic club, and there's a lot of fantastic people there, and the fans, just like the Skem fans and like any club, really good fans and good people, and even like the boards and all that, good people. But obviously, like I say, we move on, don't we?
Well, we'll come to that a little bit. As I say, we'll come to that a little bit later. But you've had that respectable finish, the 12th place, and you're looking towards the season ahead. Are you comfortable what you've got with going into the next season, or do you still need to do a bit of rebuilding?
No. So from I think if I can remember rightly, from about February or March onwards, we'd suddenly started building a squad, and we were pushing on and we were winning games, and we were looking very tough and very organised to beat. So I then knew that from that point onwards that we're going to add in the summer, and I had a list of players in the summer that I wanted to sign, and touching on the summer, I signed the majority of players that I wanted. I've got them.
And what's the expectation of the directors of the club at that stage?
for that season, it was to stay in the league. For the next season, the budget reflected to stay in the top 10, top half of the table, but my personal ambitions and private ambitions was to get in the playoffs. Because the budget that I had, I don't know anyone else's budget, but you're here, obviously it's hearsay around. But the budget that I had was a mid-table budget. And that's always been the case wherever I've been. I've never really had a budget that's been top half of the table, but you make do with what you've got, don't you? And always try and use and utilise what you've got and make it work. So
that particular season, the 2023-24 season, you believe you've got a squad that's capable of competing. How difficult did you feel the opposition was going into that season? Did you think you had a good chance of getting into the playoffs?
On statistics from the season before, you'd say no, but I privately, like I say, and you can ask the whole squad, I sat them there in June at the hub and went through a presentation, and I said the target for us, minimum target, is playoffs. A lot of them looked at me and thought it was mad, but I said this is where we aspire to be. We will aspire for this, and look, the start of the season didn't go so well. It was a bit similar to this season, to be honest. Didn't start so well. We had a good cup runs, we were doing okay, and then it kick-started into gear around November time. And then we just went on a phenomenal run then, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? From that point onwards, which I'd always knew I had a good squad though, and it was built from that pre-season. Like I say, I'll go on record as anywhere to saying you build your team in pre-season, and you'll have a successful team from pre-season. If you've got 100 players in pre-season and you don't know who your best team is, then you won't do well. But if you've got the right players around you and you know your best team early doors and you train them and get them right, I'm confident that you can push on.
Yeah. Well, you certainly did push on. You managed to get the playoffs that season, albeit by goal difference, but you like to make it dramatic, don't you?
Too dramatic.
Yeah, very much so. But obviously, you're riding that wave of momentum there. Did you feel like you could go all the way, like at that stage?
From about Christmas, just be Christmas onwards. I think we played Runcorn minutes and we beat them 2-0. We just got beat by Hartlepool the week before in the FA Trophy. We got the third round of that, so that was the furthest the club had ever got. And we played Runcorn minutes away the week later and beat them 2-0. Runcorn minutes at the time was second, I think, challenging for the league. And we beat them comfortably at their grounds. And from that point onwards, we've then played Bootle on Boxing Day and beat them 2-0 and we were comfortable again. New Year's Day we played Vauxhalls and beat them 5-0 at home, and then we went to Leith then, who were top at the time, and we were two both informed teams, and they beat us 1-0, but we absolutely played them off the park. We missed a penalty and they won 1-0. They scored a penalty and they come off and said that, like, I know Prescott went up and looked at a good side. They come off and said we were the best team they played at the time, and they were made up that they got over the line against us. So I knew from that moment onwards, and we had a blip then. A couple of weeks later, Prescott played us and beat us at Widnes's ground. But we recovered again, and then we just went on another 10-game run again. The mentality of that squad and the dressing room, second to none.
Yeah.
It was built, as I say, built from pre-season, built from the season before the end of it, and all them comes to fruition, doesn't it?
Yeah. So you've scraped into the playoffs. How are you feeling at the end of the season, going into the playoffs?
Confident. I've said, and I told Mick McGrath, the Bootle manager, we weren't in it at the time, and I said, Mick, if we get in this playoff, I fancy us to win it.
Who did you prefer to play at that stage? Because you're looking at that, the four teams, the three teams above you. Was that your preferred semi-final, the one against Runcorn Linnets?
It was any of them. We preferred any of them, and I know Prescott had beat us every time. Sort of become a bogey team, a bit of a hoodoo for me while I was there, but We preferred any of them because we had, as I say, and in football it's important, we had momentum. And we had that belief that we could go to anywhere, play anyone, and we would beat them. So it didn't faze us, and the fact that we went to run core minutes, and I don't know I think it was in their words, we comfortably beat them. And it was probably too good of a performance, if I'm honest. It was probably
peaking too soon.
Yes, it was too good of a performance. If we'd have played like that in the final, then we would have won the final, and we wouldn't be probably having this conversation. No, we'd be in the NPL Prem.
What was the final like then? I know it was a big occasion. There was over 2,000 people in the Hope Street Stadium there. But to lose 2-0 to go down on the final hurdle, it must have been heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. I'm not going to lie. Was it the biggest game we've had? On paper, for that season it was. But I just think the nerves got to them, and they'll be truthful. They'd probably tell the same. It was a bit of an anticlimax to start with. Both teams were very nervous. Losing Danny Mcnally after 10 minutes didn't help, because Danny Mcnally was really on fire. For them 10 minutes he was on the pitch, he was causing them trouble. And then losing Max Allen after 29 minutes, getting sent off, and you're already in the lion's den, aren't you? As I say, 2,000 people there. It's a hostile home crowd, as it is at the best of times, and literally everything swung in their favour from that point onwards. And I was saying to my staff, if we can get to half time 0-0, which I thought we was going to, because we weren't really under a massive threat, but a set piece was undone us right on the half time whistle, and then from that point onwards we were chasing, and I told my team at half time, look, we're 1-0 down, 10 men, I understand, go and attack them. If we get beat 2-3, 4-0, so be it, but we'll go down fighting either way. Whether that's right or wrong, but it was worth a go. Do you know what I mean? We've come to that far, and I think the 10 men proved too much for us. Legs were tired, momentum just started going then, and we just proved the bridge too far, and Prescott were just better on that day from that point onwards, and probably deservedly for them in the longer run, because they're set up to go higher. They were set up to go higher and play in the division above. And they probably had more of a team now that would stay together. So it's probably a deserved one overall. But so, it did.
Yeah. So once you've drowned your sorrows and the dust has settled, I'm assuming there's a bit of self-analysis, a bit of an inquest into your own sort of position. What are you thinking then going into the new season? Are you tempted to rebuild at that stage, or do you feel as though there's enough in the locker to have a good go at it again?
It felt like the season, because we finished on the 4th of May, and we went to Hamburg in June for like a pre-season tour sort of thing, which friendly. Basically a nice little drink with the lads and that. It felt like the season ended and we were back. It felt like we were drained still, if that makes sense. Personally, I felt drained, but you still plod on with it. You don't say, oh no, I've had enough. Do you know what I mean? I did feel drained, and once we started getting back pre-season, you're back in the swing of things and that then. But I do think we had a hangover, and it wasn't just me and my staff. I think it was players, and we lost a couple of players. Not because we took our eye off the ball, because like Josh Paulus, he left, went to Vauxhalls. Stalybridge he went to. JJ went to Vauxhalls. There's a couple of players who left who were in our squad, and we had a good squad, but other teams offered them a little bit and maybe brought them there. So I wouldn't say it was we lost our cutting edge or anything and we took everything for granted. We just, other teams seen how good we've been and maybe started trying to take some of our players. And it doesn't matter where you are in the league, if you can offer a bit of money, doesn't matter who you are, you're still going to attract players, aren't you?
Yeah, of course you are.
But touching on it, we did start a little bit lacklustre, and pre-season kicked off, and we thought, you know what, we'll be all right. But we had the basis for a good squad still. Like, when you've got a team with Michael Grogan still, Danny Mcnally, Kenny Strickland was still playing then, Calvin Eyre in goal at the time, Elliot Morris. We brought Adam Morgan in with his pedigree sort of thing, and it didn't work out, but he still wasn't a bad signing for us. It just didn't work out. Some of these bits didn't come into what we wanted, and you sort of agree early doors, and then you try to rectify it, and it's harder once the season's starting, then that your targets have gone, and you play, so you have to keep your squad and just build. And we were building slowly. We were slow burner as we go along, but I actually think we had a lot of injuries at the start also. But if you look at the cup, we went to Bootle and we beat Bootle comfortably in the FA Cup, and then we beat them the week later. So it wasn't an awful lot wrong. I'm saying it was a hangover. It wasn't the levels that we were expected from the year before, if that makes sense. Because we were in the playoff final. The logic for some people was we should be winning that league. Well, it doesn't work like that.
No.
The team that finishes in the playoff final and loses, historically, usually has an unsuccessful season the season after, because it's hard to shake that off, isn't it?
Yeah.
And as much as you go, let's go again, it is, but it's also momentum. It's easy to point fingers where things went wrong and that, but grounds are different. You're playing on a different area, different grounds. Witnesses grounds are fantastic grounds, but look, and I can't make excuses, but it is a hard pitch to play on. It's a very hard pitch, and when you're playing on a Saturday and a Monday, sometimes it can get the better of you if your squad's not up to it.
Certainly can. See, it was a really rough start to the season from you, and you find yourself sort of second from bottom despite the good results. You sort of feel really confident that you can turn things around, as you've alluded to, but the club's decided it's time to try somebody else. And following your sacking, I remember sort of looking through social medias at the time, and the reaction was kind of uproar from fans alike about the support from behind you was enormous. How did you feel like immediately after the sacking? What was going through your head?
Gutted. I was gutted, to be fair. I felt we just got beat by Newcastle Town on the Monday night. We got beat by Runcorn on the Saturday at home, and we played two tough, tight games that were 1-0. Previously, we were 5 games unbeaten before that. A lot of draws in there, but we weren't losing. We were winning. We won 1 or 2, I think, in that time as well. But the turnaround, and like I say, on the Monday, I was dejected, and then I'm having a conversation, and it was a thinking about walking away, and I was feeling tight at the time, but I wasn't walking away. And then the next day, I didn't even have to have a conversation. The conversation was I weren't going to be here no more, and I weren't going to be the manager, which hurt me. I'll be honest, it hurt me, because I felt like I'd put enough time and effort into the club, and I'd built something there, and I started to give the club a bit of an identity on the field. I felt like we had something there, and we had our values off the pitch as well, and we were building something, but we just hit a tough patch that probably needed a little bit of support. I'll go on record, I've looked around, there's other clubs, and they've been in sticky situations since I've been out of the game, and I've looked at it, and their managers have been supported. I don't want the world. I just wanted a bit of support, possibly, or maybe, look, you've got enough credit in the bank, don't be worried. That doesn't happen in football nowadays.
No, it doesn't. It's a really kind of cutthroat environment to be a football manager. They obviously the club then sort of moved to bring in Kevin Lynch, and obviously results don't pick up at all, and they sort of now find themselves bottom. in the midst of all that, you've seen a massive exodus of players that you brought in. You know, players like Danny Midgley, as you've mentioned, and Elliot Morris then kind of depart. Do you think that was down to how they treated you?
I can't comment on them players' behalf. But I don't know, you'd have to ask the players that. I'd never tell a player to walk away from the club, personally, but that's their decision. So maybe, look, I brought every player to that club. I think there was one player that I never brought, Max Allen, who was already at the club, and Max Allen weren't playing this season because of his personal issues, but yeah, that's up to them. We've got a bit of a, I wouldn't say I've got a hold on the players. I look after them. I treat them like human beings, and we've got a bit of a rapport, and whether they decided to walk away from the club for me is up to them. They stuck around when I left, and they played 2 games. So it weren't entirely just they left because of me, was it? Do you know what I mean? They'd be the ones that'd be better asking you. You'd be better asking them, sorry.
Looking at the club as it stands right now, the future looks quite bleak. What do you think can be done to revive the fortunes of the club?
I don't know, because I'm not around the club, so that's if I say this and that could look like I'm being like too interfering, but I think it's just got to accept its medicine. I think every club has good and bad times, don't they? Where they are is not where they wanted to be. It wasn't my remit at the start of the season, and I'm pretty sure if it was anything like that, I probably would have been sacked a lot earlier. Do you know what I mean? If the statistics that were shown last week that I've seen, like 4 points from 21 games since I've left, I wouldn't have probably got 21 games, even after getting the playoffs last year. So I don't know what I think they need probably a rebuild. Probably take stock of where they're going, which I'm pretty sure they will do. There's a lot of good people at the club, and I think they just need to get their identity back and get something built again.
Yeah. Listen, that wasn't a trick question, that, by the way. We were thinking that you know, they've probably overachieved in recent years, but never secured their own piece of land. Do you think, on reflection, that's caught up with them? Yeah. You can't. It's like the scam situation. So yeah, we feel it. We know it. Yeah.
Every club I've been at since Camel Laird's has not had their own ground, and that's a common denominator. So you're always, if you haven't got your own ground, it's hard, isn't it, to build something, because you're always, you could be feathering someone else's pockets, making them just as successful, or you're just forking out money that's not going anywhere and it's costing. I don't look at that side, to be honest, as much as other people would, but it does affect. Players like to go and play at their own ground. They like to have a base that they're at, don't they? So
yeah, because they tend to get off at the end of the game wherever they are. So it's every game's like an away game. You can't even get them back for a beer or even a butty. What we built at City Liverpool was, I had a rule that the lads had to stay behind and have a drink with us, and that's what we built, and that's something that people take for granted in football. It's one of them things, and people just come in and get off. And the Monday footballer does. Monday football's an athlete now. Yeah.
But we had a rule where no matter who you was, you stay and have at least one, whether it's a glass of Coke, whether it's a drink. You just stay and have a little bit of a bond. Back to the old days of getting brown envelopes. People would stick around for the brown envelopes anyway, wouldn't they? And then get off. So that's what we brought into the club, that, look, stick around, have a drink with the fans. When we were based at Bootle, some of the lads were sitting there till 9 o'clock drinking with the fans. Do you know what I mean? Which I didn't mind. Do you know what I mean? It builds a bit of camaraderie, and that's immense in football. People don't realise that as well, that to get people on your side and fans on your side, and you can take on anything.
You can. I think that's the beauty of football at our level, really. When after you left City Liverpool, you stayed largely quiet for the most. Yeah, you did. And I know that there will forever be disagreements in football, and you largely just kind of shake hands and agree to disagree. But in an odd kind of way, clubs kind of get what they deserve in some respects, and I know sort of from the outcry of support from fans who were backing you, they would probably see that the City of Liverpool have got, to a degree, what they deserve. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Look, every club I've been at and I've left, I never want them to do as well as I did. That's a personal side.
It's very difficult not to feel that way, isn't it?
No, yeah, it is.
Human instinct.
Any manager who says, "Oh, I want them to go and do better than what it did," they're a liar.
Yeah.
They're a liar. It's human nature.
Totally agree with you.
But did I want them to get relegated? No, I didn't. I didn't want them to go down. But I'm happy that they haven't achieved as much as I've got. And the records just probably... I've been proven that I wasn't the problem. I think that's been the thing. So I can feel justified in that, and I don't feel happy though. I really don't. It's more annoying. I feel like something's been taken apart that wasn't particularly broken. It wasn't a million miles away. It was a player or two that could have come in and that we could have eventually signed mid-season. We could have got that right with a certain way of playing or something. I don't feel we were a million miles away. Other people might disagree, but I just see it from my point of view. But I just feel that we weren't going to be where we was, put it that way. And I feel that the way the league's panned out, we potentially could have been about mid-table anyway with the squad that we've got. Or we had.
We've got an ice cream van coming through the speaker.
Sorry.
It's just okay. Yeah.
No, it's just a giggle.
Listen, the cost of being a football nomads puts huge sort of demands on the club with relegation now confirmed, reduced support and lack of sympathy for the City of Liverpool. Do you think they can survive, never mind thrive? Because the question's been asked a lot around non-league circles.
I hope so. I really do hope so. I'm not privy to any financial side or anything, but there's a lot of, as I say, it's a fan-owned club. There's people who go home and away, who follow them religiously. Look, the board, even the chairman, he's built the club up, and we might have had our disagreements, as obviously he's sacked me, hasn't he? But
yeah.
At the end of the day, he still built that club up from nothing, and he built it up, and
He's
their interests are the club. Yeah, their interests are in the club, regardless of one manager. One person can't dictate the club or decide whether they're good or bad, and I'm just a manager, like the players. But I think, something needs to be done with them. They need to, for them to move forward, I think they all need to be in unison and that. And I really hope they don't fold. It would be a travesty. I know there's a lot of people around football and trolls who don't like them. I know why they don't like them though, and a lot of people know why they don't like them. It's because they've been relatively successful in a short period of time. And they've put a few noses out of joint, haven't they? And a few, they've said a few little things here and there that might be out of turn. But they've been alright in most of football. They've been good for football, haven't they? Do you know what I mean? And no one wants to see a football club go under.
No.
I don't think they do anyway. So I'm saying I don't think they do, but I think there'd be a lot of rival fans that probably would. So I don't know. I wouldn't like to see them go under. It wouldn't be nice, and I wouldn't like to have on my CV ex-manager of City Liverpool who are no longer formed. Do you know what I mean? Just like Skem or Little Nebuchadnezzar or Camel Lades.
Yeah, of course. And as to your CV, Paul, since you've been out of football for a few months at this level, have you had any offers? Has your phone been ringing?
No, I'm a ghost. No, what I think it is there's not a lot of managers that have gone, has he, out of the game. The Runcorn job become available, and I was interested, and I felt that might have been the right one. It turns out it wasn't, and you've got Brad Cook in, and Brad Cook's proven to do a good job. So that's football, isn't it? Personally, it might have been the right job. Do you know what I mean? Only time will tell. Do you know what I mean? I do think there'll be something that comes up, but I don't know when. I don't know. It's an if.
Well, I have this conversation regularly with Tommy Lawson. I've been writing my autobiography for nearly 20 years now. When I started it, I called it When My Phone Stops Ringing. It's now been retitled When My Phone Stops Pinging. There is that sense, isn't there, when you've been involved with football for a long time, that the phone goes quiet. It's quite unsettling. I'll rephrase it though on the ringing. It has still been going, but it's not with job offers. It's with people in football. Obviously, I still speak to a lot of people in football. But as you say, you fish and chip paper very quickly in football. Yeah. You're the back of the echo 1 minute, the next minute you're not even in it, are you? Do you know what I mean? So, if this is my epitaph and that's what I've got, I don't think that. Well, you spoke about Tommy, and there's not many more successful managers than him around. I think my epitaph is actually not that bad. Do you know what I mean? I don't think there's many other managers around that can come close to the record that I've got with the achievements that I've done. Do you know what I mean? Not many managers around the Northwest can say they've been in the FA Cup first rounds at our level. No. You've got an exceptional CV there. Listen, a lot of people when they knew that you were coming on the show were extremely excited to see you come on the show, but they've also asked questions. So just a few quick sort of fire questions. Do you think the teams that did well last season have struggled this year because of the quality of the league improving? Example, Bootle, or the quality in teams dropping? Also, what would you say is your greatest achievement as a manager? Right, okay, so I'll answer the first bit. Do I think that the league's dropped? No, I don't think it has. I think a lot of teams have caught up with likes of ourselves last year. I don't think our team was as good as last year. As I spoke about earlier, we didn't have the same strength in depth. I couldn't speak for Bootles, but personally I felt Bootles' team is stronger this year than it was last year, so I couldn't say that they're any weaker, so that must mean that the league's got stronger. In Widnes's side, they've been fantastic, and they've built that team for the last 2 years together. They come close to get the playoffs last year, and they've had that stability, and that's pushed them on this year, and I think they're going to be worthy winners. Vauxhall's, other teams, they've just got stronger. Vauxhalls have took, I think, off the top of my head, they've got 6 players that played for me previously at City of Liverpool, so I'll take that as a backhanded compliment. They must have been doing something right, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Other teams do get stronger, so the league probably has got stronger. Do I feel the quality's as good as last year? No, possibly not, because Lee and Prescott Cables were good. I felt Nantwich were good as well, but possibly not as good as this season. So other teams are not as good as last season, but it's not to diminish anyone's efforts. I still think it's a good league. Do you know what I mean? It's a top league. Yeah. Greatest achievement? I think I've answered that one. I think it's my FA Cup first rounds. Yeah, definitely. Now, another question that came in: what level would you consider returning to? That's a City Liverpool fan, that isn't it? Yeah, it is. Yeah. I'm not going to name names. That's the $1 million question. Do you know what? I'd never turn any level down, to be honest. My ambitions are to be a manager and coach or whatever at the highest level I can be at. But I just love football as well. I manage my kids' football team on a Saturday. I still coach for Liverpool, so I'll never lose that passion. I still, whatever level I could go and watch kids in the park playing football match, men play football match, anything, and I'd watch it, do you know what I mean? So I'd never be that stuck up and say, oh, well, I'll never drop down to that level, because I've been at the level. I've been in the first division of the counties, I've been in the Prem division counties, I've been in the NPL. So, no, I'd never be stuck up. It'd have to be the right project, that's all I'd say.
on anything, do you know what I mean? It'll never be about the level.
No. Listen, what would you have done differently at the beginning of the season, if anything?
Maybe had a little bit of a longer break, recharge my batteries a little bit more. Yeah, because I went straight into it. I didn't really have a proper break with my family or anything, do you know what I mean? I sort of just went straight into it. Probably a little bit more of a longer break. Maybe, I'm not knocking any signings, maybe sign a lot more players, if that makes sense. I signed a few players at the start. I got a lot of injuries before the season started, and then I had to sign about 5 or 6 more that we're not knocking them. Potentially I wouldn't have signed earlier on. Do you know what I mean? More just to buff the squad back up. Probably have more of a rest and
more signings.
More signings that I would have wanted, if that makes sense. Again, I'm not saying I never wanted any other signings, but ones that were the standard that I've needed.
And the final question that came in was, can you see City of Liverpool getting back into the Northern Premier League anytime soon in the future?
Yeah. It's been shown with Scam, hasn't it? If the right person or the right people or the right investments as well gets into the club and they play with their own grounds, etc. Do you know what I mean? Then anything can happen. It's a case of they build an identity again, and I'm not saying it can happen overnight, because it's very rare that a team drops out the NPL and bounces up out the counties straight away. That's disrespectful to anyone in the counties, because it's a very, very tough league.
Yeah.
Any team that drops down usually finds themselves near the bottom of that league, the Premier Counties, because it's so tough and physical and demanding that they get a culture shock.
Yeah. And
most teams that are getting relegated, the turnover of players will be huge. So I don't think it'll be next season unless there's a massive overhauls. But I do think if they build a platform, they get a base and they can move forward, I don't see why not they couldn't return.
We've said the same thing about Scam. We've got to find a base. But listen, just to finish on a sort of light-hearted note there, I noticed that there was a rumour going around that when Everton leave Goodison, the ladies team are going to take over Goodison Park. It goes against the grain a little bit, but do you think City of Liverpool, because they're looking for land within the City of Liverpool, do you think there's a ground share potential for City of Liverpool?
I don't think so personally. That'd be disrespectful to all the other Liverpool clubs, wouldn't it, though, as well, like South Liverpool, Little and Remacher, Lower Breck have got they've got their own base, but you can't just pop off all these other clubs. And I'm sorry if I've disrespected any other local clubs, do you know what I mean? But it couldn't just be just them, could it? Do you know what I mean? I know they've got the moniker of City of Liverpool, but I don't know, it would be a tough one, that. Walton Park, I'd say, would be the best one.
Where's that, sorry?
But Walton Hall Park.
Oh, Walton Hall Park, yeah.
Where the women play, that would be the best base for a local base side, but I'm not sure it meets the requirements for the NPL.
Have they not already tried with that?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm really not sure. When it comes to anything like that off the field, I stayed my beak out of it. Stayed right out of it.
Listen, I can't see you being out of football for much longer. What do you feel as though the future for Paul Mcnally is going into the next season and ahead?
I've had a nice recharged break, as they say. I've watched a lot of football. I've been going to watch Bootle, I've been going to watch some Colin Minutes, I've been watching local football. Just local ones, as in like Jeffrey Humble, etc. and Simpsons grounds. I've been a lot of Sunday games. So I don't know what the future holds. It could be anything, do you know what I mean? I'm not averse to even being a coach again and an assistant manager, do you know what I mean? I'm never averse like that, but I don't think anyone would want to take me on as an assistant manager there, because they'd always be wary that I've been a manager, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not fussed that way, do you know what I mean? But my ambitions and my fire's still burning, do you know what I mean? I still want to prove myself, and like I say, I feel I can be this level and I can be the level above. and I've proven that in games that we've played, albeit one-off games, but consistently I've put teams together that can challenge, do you know what I mean? So I still feel I've got a lot to offer.
And one thing you've proven, by the way...
Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say the one thing that you've proven is there's a very thin line between success and failure, because had you have beat Prescott in the playoffs, you'd have been competing in the National League North.
And potentially still would have been sacked.
Well, you just don't know how things are going to go, because you know, in terms of crowds and support, the support it might have rejuvenated the football club. And
it's a sliding doors moment, isn't it? It's what could have been, but that wasn't meant to be. If that makes any more sense, do you know what I mean? That wasn't meant to be for us at that time, and for me, my achievement was to get there. And I'm gutted because football hinges on decisions, and there was decisions in that game, like I say, that swung everything in Prescott's favour on the day. Even the Senior Cup final the week before, we played Marine in the Senior Cup final. 2,000 people there. Little decisions went their way. It's played at Marine's grounds as well, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So things like that, potentially I could have had a Senior Cup on my CV and a playoff final on my CV, but it's not. I've got 2 runners-up finals on my CV, so I'm thankful and I'm grateful for what I've done in the game, because like I say, it's I don't think, like, I'm not belittling anyone's achievements. There's not many others that can go toe-to-toe with what I've done, and I'm grateful for that, do you know what I mean? I've shown what I can do, and my staff as well. I'm grateful for my staff and thankful of them that they're just waiting for me wherever I go, do you know what I mean? Or if we go somewhere, do you know what I mean? And that's it.
I'm sure there'll be a few changes at the end of the season, and one of them will bring you back into the frame again. Listen, thanks very much for coming on the show and being really open and honest as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks AJ, thank you.
All the best, Paul. Take care, mate.
Take care now.
Bye now. Bye.
Special shout out to all the businesses that support Skelmersdale United Football Club: Origin Sign Company, T&W Garners, 7PDS, Skem Express Cars 5005, Lease Car UK, RNB Auto Centre, SB Skills Solutions, and Hey Presto Web Design. Thank you to everyone who donates to the club, supports our race nights, raffles, and the lottery bonus ball scheme, and of course the last man standing. A special thanks to those who organise these fundraising events, especially the incredible Lee Davis and Lucas Berquist. To all who stand by us both on and off the field, we are truly grateful. If you wish to sponsor the show, please contact me at chairman.skemutdfc@gmail.com or call me on 07766 054 548. All proceeds will go to Skelmersdale United Football Club. Thank you for your unwavering support. Hello and welcome to the third and final part of the Speaking Frankly Football Show, and a big thank you to Paul Mcnally. Very honest and open conversation with him there.
Yeah, absolutely, and it gives you a really good insight as to what it's like to be a manager, even at our level. Managers face such intense criticism when performances aren't going their way, and apparently sort of given very little time to turn it around in most situations.
I know he said in the conversation that he felt as though he should have had a bit of credit in the bank for what he'd done previously. He was quite proud of his record, and so should he should. But I wonder whether, because we never really asked him the question there, but when you get sacked as a manager, there must be an awful lot of self-assessment and doubt when that happens, because it's not the first time.
No, absolutely. It's really unfortunate for him, because I think he was sacked by both Remiker and Camel Laird, wasn't he? That's what he said. Yeah, and now sort of perhaps most undeservedly, with City of Liverpool, and I know, like I said, on the interview, that the outcry was enormous, and I think he's an extremely well respected and in demand manager when the jobs are available. But weirdly enough, at this point, I don't think there's been any managerial departures. Definitely not from our league, but I don't think from either of the other two. Obviously, there's been one or two. Obviously, Runcorn, Foley-Mere, and Alsager. That's the ones. Thank you. Yeah, but certainly not from ours. So you have to wonder where his next job will come from.
Listen, no doubt there'll be a few changes during the close season.
Yeah.
And it's where he restarts. Like you said, he doesn't have a problem going back into coaching or becoming an assistant. But like you said, very, very difficult for anybody want to have him as their number two, given the fact that he's
number one in his own right.
His CV speaks for itself.
Yeah, he's a number one in his own right.
It's
difficult to kind of step back into a number two role. It can prove very difficult for any manager.
And what a potential football club for Paul Mcnally gets is that he does immerse himself in the culture of the football club, doesn't he? He gets really, really involved, and takes it. He wears his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah, he does.
So it'll be interesting to see whether he gets back into football sooner rather than later. What do you feel about, because we've obviously had the conversation with Paul, and there's only so far you can go because he's looking at his next potential job. The more he says, the worse it is for him in terms of moving on. Any potential chairman won't want to hear him be too critical of the club that he's just left. But what do you think lies ahead for City of Liverpool? Because my impression is that I think if you put the two things together, yes, they've made a knee-jerk reaction by sacking Paul, but in terms of their longevity, because they don't really have any identity, they don't play at their own ground. And because of the ground share situation, and we believe that it's costing them currently £2,000 a game.
It's ruinously expensive because they're sharing with Widnes Vikings, the rugby club. It's an enormous, all-capacity, purpose-built
£2,000 though, that's crippling that. And then £3,000 allegedly when they play on bank holidays. You just can't keep that. You can't form any kind of momentum when your money's just going down the drain, isn't it? Fast.
Yeah. It's got to be a really, really difficult situation for anyone involved with City of Liverpool. And you're asking me what I think will happen to City of Liverpool. Obviously, relegation's already been confirmed now. It was confirmed last week. For me, I can't see how they would be able to sustain this. I really don't. I mean, they might have a pitch that would be fine for kind of ground grading issues, but they're going to
a community interest club or something like that. I mean, they've got members, haven't they? And I don't know whether the members have dwindled since the early days when they formed was it 2016? I
think they were formed in 2016.
I think they had around about 1,000 members then, paying a lot of money.
Yeah, it could very well have dwindled off. They've still got quite a band of hardcore City of Liverpool fans who did pose a big question to Paul Manning,
we mentioned that last week's programme, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. So, speaking quite frankly, I honestly think the time is running out for City of Liverpool. I hope very much that I'm wrong, but I can't really see which other way it would go.
Sad if it happens.
Very much so, yeah.
But listen, we go on. We move on to the fixtures for the weekend and ahead. We're starting with last night, tonight, Lower Breck again. We thought these games that are coming thick and fast for Lower Breck were going to hinder their progress, but they've been doing really, really well.
They
play South Liverpool 8 o'clock kickoff at the Anfield Sports Community Centre.
Yeah, they do. And for me, that's going to be a home win.
Yeah.
So I know South Liverpool had a really excellent result the other night against Chadderton, but they are now 2 games unbeaten. But I mean, Lower Breck, I mean, they're just on a flyer, aren't they? You know, most goals scored in the league over the last 6 games. Just that one loss.
Coming 6 games ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly, against Bury. So you have to feel like this
bad
is
on your score sheet, is it really?
So that's a home win for me.
Yeah, most definitely. Then we move on to tonight's fixture: Winsford versus Shawbury.
Yep. So again, this one is sort of top V near the bottom, really. So Winsford are currently top, sort of near enough running away with the league as Stafford unfortunately continue to flounder a little bit, whereas Shawbury United second bottom of the table, and as far as form goes, 2 wins, 1 draw and 3 losses, but results are mixed. Again, I can only really see this going one way.
Yeah, it depends how much fight Shawbury have got left in them, I suppose. But Winsford, listen, I think they're 6 points ahead now, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
Listen, they'll want to sort of put in a psychological blow there and win that game to go 9 points ahead. So I'm going for Winsford as well.
There you go. Yeah, and with that, there's only 5 games left of the season in the First Division South. So you would imagine that it's almost make or break for Winsford and Stafford. Yeah. Now then, Stafford themselves are in action at the weekend, but they're in the Edward Case Cup semi-finals, so they're taking on Ashville, also of the First Division South.
Yeah, Ashville, decent enough team, and it depends how much they're looking at the league, and still, listen, I would assume it's a semi-final that they're going to go for at Stafford, aren't they, as well?
I think so, yeah. I mean, if you're looking really pragmatically there, you're saying that Winsford are probably just a bit out of reach for them, but they've secured their place in the playoffs.
I'll go for Stafford on pens. I think it'll be a tight one.
Yeah, I think it'll be a tight one, but I will stay Stafford. The other semi-final.
It's a repeat of the game.
It's a repeat of last Saturday's game when Holcott Old Boys take on Atherton LR.
I don't suppose really Atherton will want to be playing this game so soon after the win. Although, that said, Davy Jones will have learnt a lot from that.
It's a perfect time to correct your mistakes, really, isn't it? Yeah. I do wonder, though, whether his focus has shifted. They had that really excellent run in the FA Vars. Yeah, absolutely. They've now got to the semi-finals of the Edward Case Cup. I know their chairman, Sean Lynch, who we had on the show a few weeks ago, made it clear that he would like to have a cup. But if he's looking at this now really pragmatically, he says that they've probably got to go all out for catching Nelson. So with that in mind, I'm going to go home win.
I'm going to go for Atherton LR, and I think it'll be a tight one again, but I think that'll be won on penalties either way. So, you get 3 points for getting the correct one, 1 point for coming close. Yeah.
Rightio then. So that moves us to the Premier Division, and they're the only division across the weekend with almost a full complement of fixtures. Yeah. It's a really kind of sparse after this. So all 3 o'clock kickoffs, we're going to open with AFC Liverpool against Lower Breck, and just immediately that's going to be an away win for Lower Breck. That they've proven that they can withstand the pressure of playing on a Thursday to then a Saturday.
Well, take the words out of my mouth. We say that every week, don't we? That it might be a bit too much for them playing 2 games within 48 hours of each other. But yeah, I'm
just no signs of it now.
No, that said though, AFC Liverpool had that really good win, which we weren't expecting to be as convincing as it was. But
yeah,
against Longridge, wasn't it, a 3-0? Yeah. So listen, it could be a tight game, but I'm going for Lower Breck because there's something about that club and there's something about that team.
They just keep on going, don't they?
Yeah, you wouldn't be surprised if they went on to nick something.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Push Bury all the way anyway.
Push Bury all the way, yeah. Now, Barnoldswick versus Abbey Hay. So Barnoldswick were actually on a bit of a decent run of late. 2 wins, 2 draws, but without a win in their last 3, which is making life just a little bit more irritating for them. As for Abbey Hay, unbeaten in 5 and 3 wins on the bounce.
I'm going for a draw.
Okay, I'm going to say an away win there.
Yeah. Right, fair enough.
Now then,
Bearscough versus Cone, it's an interesting one because Bearscough will want to make it 4 consecutive wins. Cone are doing relatively well, keeping themselves out of the mire.
Yeah, they're going to want to make it 3 games unbeaten. Now, they are starting to crank out draws at a pretty decent rate. This, their draw against Earlham was their 3rd across the last 6, so they are picking up points, nearly every week. They're doing a sort of remarkable consistency now. And if Cone can stifle Callum Laird, then I think there is a chance for them. But Bearscough themselves have got to watch out for Jude Entwistle down the other end. So for me, I think that'll be a draw.
Well, I'm going for Bearscough. I think they're building up ahead of steam. I think Dempsey's sort of realising now what he's got now and what he's working towards next season. So yeah, I'll go for Bearscough.
Alrighty then. Cheadletown versus Charnock Richard.
Well, we witnessed Charnock Richard.
We did.
Listen, they're a decent side, aren't they? But they just seem to be struggling scoring, and they've got that. Was it
Nathan Nickius, who's got 32 goals this season, something outrageous like that one. But he didn't score in the midweek game against Glossop, and he's not scored for about 5 games now. So the goals are really drying up there, and it did look like there may be goals coming from somewhere else, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. As for Cheadletown, they're not doing too badly themselves. They did lose their last game, but they were on a 5-game unbeaten run before that. They're 10th in the league out of 24, so very respectable places. Charnock Richard down in 15th, and 4 straight defeats. You'd be minded to say home win, really, aren't you?
Well, listen, I'm going to go for Charnock Richard, and I'm going to say that it's going to be a tight game. I think Nathan Nickius is going to score his 30th goal of the season and end his drought. So I'm going to go for Charnock Richard.
You're really building up a bet builder here, aren't you? Goodness me. Now then, we're going to go to the Bowl, where FC Isle of Man are playing a 3:00 game.
Well, I was going to mention this earlier on when we were talking about the roundup of the results. FC Isle of Man always seem to do better in the first part of the season than they do in the second. I don't know why. I don't know for what reason. Whether it's more difficult travelling in the winter months, I don't know. People getting time off to play these games. But then, listen, they've got the home advantage. Pilks will want to make sure that they keep at least maintain the 5-point gap from the bottom teams. This, for me, has got all the hallmarks of a draw, because I don't think the Isle of Man are doing anything particularly great at the moment. I think Pilks are just sort of, plodding along and getting the odd point here and there to keep themselves.
They are, yeah. So for me, FC Isle of Man, they're not on a great run at all. They're, no wins in their last 4, with 2 straight losses. In particular that one against Squires Gate, which will have really rejuvenated the away side into thinking they can escape. With that being said, Pilks are not on a particularly great run themselves by any stretch of the imagination. Lost their last game. And have lost 3 out of the last 5 before that. So I am also going to say a draw here.
Right.
Now then, FC St Helens against Bury. So that will be an enormous turnout at the SMS Pro Soccer Park there. What you got?
A few sort of disillusioned supporters there, because I believe FC St Helens were charging £10 for every single person coming in, child or not.
Oh.
I think they offsetted that by, I might be wrong whether they changed that in the week since it was announced. I think they were giving a programme and a meal to all the kids that were paying the £10. If that's the case, that's
a way of doing business.
I think it's a fair way of doing things. What I would say in defence of FC St Helens is that when you're doing these ticket allocations online, there's no way of actually proving whether whether you're
a child,
a senior citizen or what, and it might sound a little bit selfish and money orientated, but unfortunately that's the nature of the business. So I don't know whether there'll be a little bit of there'll be one or two songs from the Bury supporters there. I would imagine.
So yeah. On the pitch, though, it's the Bury train's just keeping on rolling, and I don't see it stopping at FC St Helens. It's an away win for me.
Yeah, I'm going for Bury as well.
There you go.
Earlham versus Longridge.
Now, I know that we talked about Earlham drawing against Cone when perhaps we thought that they might win. I did predict Cone to draw with Earlham, but with this one against Longridge Town, I am anticipating them getting back to winning ways. Longridge have lost their last two games, whereas Earlham were on a really good run of form. Before that draw, including kind of four wins and just a one.
So where do they stand now in terms of that point deduction makes a huge difference, doesn't it, in the final analysis now, because
could very well do
the goal difference compared to the teams above them is not particularly good.
No, it's not.
I suppose it doesn't make a great deal of difference because they're 4 points behind.
They are 4 points behind, yeah. But they are relying on two West Finsbury and Shorten fixtures falling from the final six. So it just gets that little bit more tighter and increases the pressure on Earlham to do something. That being said, I think they'll get right back to winning ways. And I'm
going for Earlham as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Ramsbottom versus Litherland Remica.
Yeah, Remy. I want Steve Wilkes and Ramy to get right back to winning ways there.
Yeah, I think what they need to do now is they need to build up a head of steam going into the playoffs, because they're guaranteed the playoffs now.
They virtually are. Yeah. I mean, they've got 7 games left in there, maximum of 21 points. They can finish on 102. Very unlikely, but they are 5 points clear of Padiham. And
sorry for standing on your toe.
That's all right. And 8 points clear of West Finsbury and Chorlton. So, they are almost there. The best thing that Steve Wilkes and Ramy can do now, as you say, is build that momentum going into the playoffs. Home win for me. Yeah,
definitely home win. South Liverpool versus Glossop North End. So Brodie's team are on their travels again.
Yes, they are.
South Liverpool, they can shock.
They can really shock you on the day, yeah. They had that great 3-3 draw against Chadderton, but that two very different teams there. Chadderton, no wins in their last 6, whereas Glossop North End 1 win and 2 draws. So it's a bit of an up and down. Episode for Richard and Glossop North End recently, but I see them taking a win here, so I'm going to go away win.
Yeah, just looking at I think the problem's been there with Glossop now has been scoring goals, and I think Lewis Riley's not long been back from injury, I think.
Still getting...
so he's not quite as sharp as he was earlier on, but they're obviously missing Tom, what's his name, as well. He's out in...
Oh, you're asking the questions here.
Yeah. But listen,
anyway.
I think that's a game that, off the back of that victory there, they've snatched it at the end, like Richard said before. They've been the victim on the receiving end of late victories.
Yeah,
I think they'll do the business against South Liverpool. So I'm going to go for Glossop North End.
Good. And now the last one is a real heavyweight clash.
It's an
there.
interesting one.
West Didsbury and Chorlton at home to Padiham, 4th versus 5th.
Yeah, well, there's a lot on the line here because, like you say, if Padiham win this one and Earlham win theirs, then they bring the gap back to 1 point, I guess. So there's your first game then, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Whereas Padiham, it's probably all about wanting to avoid lower bracket in that playoff semi-final, because that's exactly what you'd want to happen, really.
And Padiham have got that sort of cushion of a game in hand on the couple of teams below them.
They do, and they no longer have any obligations towards the Lancashire Cup now that at the exit at the semi-final stage. So you would mind it to think that they just, like Rami, want to build up head of steam ahead of the playoffs. So
there'll be a huge crowd there, by the way, in excess of 1,000.
I would think so. Yeah, West Didsbury and Chorlton often tend to bring around 800, whereas Padiham are really going to want to see what happens here. So
where are you going on this one?
See, Padiham have got what's his name? Jordan Briggs, James Briggs. But West Didsbury and Chorlton have got Jordan Lazenbury. It's two high goal scoring teams here.
Listen, I'm going to go for West Didsbury, just purely down to the fact that they've got the home advantage. It'll be a big sort of crowd with it as well.
Yeah,
backed up with a big home crowd.
I'm going to join you in that one. Yeah, only just, but I think West Didsbury and Chorlton will do it.
Yeah, so an interesting one now off the back of the Aaron Hunt phenomena.
Yep.
Daisy Hill have their second game at home against AFC Blackpool.
Yes, they do.
They had a big gate of 856, I think it was.
Something outrageous like that. But so we're anticipating some kind of similar-sized crowd.
Talking about the crowd there, I think they have to reduce that because I think their capacity is around about 660. I might be wrong, but I just heard somebody told me that last week. So.
Yeah, so they may need to shut the doors at some point, and it's not a local derby either. So the AFC Blackpool contingent should be much smaller than the Atherton LR contingent.
Do you think they'll continue to attract big crowds, or do you think that was the? Do you think that was the initial?
No, I think they still will attract big crowds. I don't think it will be nearly as big as the 800 mark.
No.
Because
you said this is a afternoon game as opposed to an evening game.
It is, yeah. I think they'll get something in the region of about 400.
Yeah.
500, yeah. Which
it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's still an enormous jump from for Daisy Hill, who were averaging about 130, 140. If that. Daisy Hill are on a decent run of form. They managed to get that win against Droylsden.
We didn't see that one coming.
We did not see that one coming, and I'm minded to think that they'd probably do the same against AFC Blackpool unless Luke Heppel manages to find his scoring boots again. So,
well, a run of bad form there, isn't it? AFC Blackpool are not doing particularly well. Daisy Hill quite enthusiastic and encouraged by this new chairman. I'll go for Daisy Hill.
I'm going to go home when Now then, First Division South, just the two games going on there. We're going to start with Camel Laird 1907 against Barnton.
Listen, I'm going to go for Camel Laird.
All right.
I don't know why, but I'm just saying I'm going to go for
they're minded for just having almost identical results there. So I'm going to say a draw.
Okay. I mean, they did manage to beat Eccleswell, though, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
So they might, I'm going for them. Foley Mere versus Stockport Georgians.
So I'm also going to say a draw here as well. So Foley Mere have kind of dropped off after that new manager bounce there, which has included 4 defeats out of the last 6. But that being said, Stockport Georgians 4 wins from their last 6 games, but 2 losses on the other side of it. So actually, I'm going to change my mind.
No, you can't do that.
I say an away win.
I've got Stockport Georgians. They're doing really well. They beat Asheville last Saturday, didn't they? So that was a good result for them.
Yeah. So on Sunday, the 16th of March,
Crikey,
FC Isle of Man are in action again.
That can't be right, surely.
Surely not.
Wow. Well, have I got that wrong? That can't be. That surely can't be right, can it?
FC Isle of Man are in action 20 hours after having first played.
Well, less than 20 hours. It's 11 o'clock kick-off.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is 20 hours, mate.
Is it 20 hours?
Well, yeah, 3 o'clock kick-off and then...
Oh, sorry, 20. I thought you
20.
said 20. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Silly sausage.
Got to learn to do me mathematics first.
Mm.
That's a bizarre one, then.
So
are they playing catch-up, are they? Let's have a look at the...
yeah, we're going to have a look at the table.
We're going to have a look at the table here now.
Yeah, matches played. FC Isle of Man, 39 games. So they do have games in hand on a lot of the teams, but they can't be playing catch-up there. That's ludicrous. I mean, if it is happening, then we do need something.
It is. That's the fixtures according to the North West Counties. It must be right. If it says it is,
then we need to get somebody from the fixture allocation set up down here now, because it's a Sunday game at the Bowl.
I know. I find that really bizarre. So they definitely play on the Saturday, and they definitely play on the Sunday. Yeah. So listen, it's there. It's on the North West Counties website. Whether that's a personal preference. You know, because they want to get the games done and dusted
out of the way.
Whether they've got commitments, because we do know that the Bowl isn't just used for FC Isle of Man. It's there's other teams that play on there. Yeah,
there is. They do have to share it, unfortunately. But anyway, if they are playing on Sunday,
I'm going for Prestwich Hayes.
I'm going to go for Prestwich Hayes as well.
I said it's the same for Prestwich Hayes. Do not play, do they, on the Saturday? So
no, they do not.
Makes sense for them anyway.
Yeah.
Listen, interesting one. Be even more interesting to find out why.
Yeah, we need to get North West Counties rep there.
Yeah. Monday the 17th of March, Main Road versus Halker Old Boys. Yeah,
that's same for me. And then we move to Tuesday, which is a lot of Burnley teams involved on here. So it's Cone versus Lower Breck, and you'd be minded to say Lower Breck again, really.
Yeah, Lower Breck, that one. Padiham versus Bearsville.
Home win for me there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for a draw.
Good grief, man. Yeah. Anyway, carrying on that Tuesday night in the First Division North, we have Steeton against Atherton LR. Now, I fully expect Atherton LR to get back to winning ways here, regardless of what happens in that reverse fixture against Holker Old Boys. It's a domestic game. It's a league game, and they're going to want to get right back on it. Away win for me there.
But you wouldn't be surprised if Steeton could snatch something out of that.
Well, possibly.
The form of Atherton, but I'm going to go for Atherton LR.
Yeah, so am I. Steeton have lost their last 4 games, including that defeat to Garstang, I think it was. So, don't write them off.
No. And the very final fixture is as we alluded to before, is the second semi-final in the Lancashire Challenge Trophy. Longridge versus Southport.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you'd have to say that on paper, Southport, despite the departure of Jim Bentley and the questions surrounding their domestic form, are heavy favourites here. And that's why we're going for an away win.
Yeah, we're definitely going for an away win. So that's a roundup of the fixtures and our expert analysis. So the sort of 2 final parts of the show are the question: what have we learned so far?
Okay,
this week.
Yeah, so
it's been a long week.
It has been a long week, and it's been a week full of controversy and difficulties. So, for me, management is incredibly short-lived, whether it's success or failure, and people, although they tend to remember your successes after you've gone, they tend to remember your failures exactly when they happen, and nobody has credit in the bank for very long. Also, on the back of what happened at Alsager Town, you just never know, when something might happen, and of course we must re-emphasise that we send all our very best wishes to Alsager, but just keep safe and keep playing football.
Yeah, what have I learned about it? My dad used to say to me, on your way up, don't ignore the people that have helped you along the way, because when you come tumbling back down, they just wave goodbye to you very, very quickly. And that's sort of, I'm aiming that somewhere, obviously, like that's subliminal messages out to someone.
Cheek, yeah.
But you just mentioned it there about credit in the bank, and we also have to, as custodians of a football club, we have to be aware sometimes that we can make knee-jerk reactions. I think maybe in the case of Jim Bentley at Southport, a little bit more understandable than the sacking of Paul Mcnally back in October last year. And I think that has been proven now. I think they've only accumulated 4 points since he left, or since he was sacked. They've not done much better since. The one thing that he could have given them was stability. They're particularly doing bad. I think they got 11 points in 13 games. Just seems very, very... it seemed at the time, and still does now, feel as though it was a really harsh decision. And like I say, just as a custodian of a football club, I think sometimes you should look at yourself as well.
Yeah, very much so.
And we do that all the time. But
yeah, we do.
Listen, just a quick one. Skem play Squires Gate at the JMO Stadium. That's a 1 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. So if you can get along to that game, it's free entry, no charge whatsoever. So get along there if you can. And before we both go, the final words are left to AJ.
You've been listening to the Speaking Frankly Football Show with me, AJ Vegette, and my co-host, Mr. Frank Hughes. Please remember to like and rate and review as we do thrive on your responses and your feedback. Please also remember to subscribe to the show so that you can be the first to find out when a new episode of the Speaking Frankly Football Show has dropped. We are available on social media platforms, Facebook and X, under the tagline Speaking Frankly Football Show. So please like and follow us there. We are not here next week. We're having a little break, so you will next find us on your streaming platforms on the 28th of March for the 20th episode of the Speaking Frankly Football Show. Until then, bye bye for now.